Horton Foote is here. He has been called the Chekhov of the small town over a span of 5 decades. His plays have captivated audiences everywhere. He earned 2 Oscars for screen adaptations of To Kill a Mockingbird and Tender Mercies. In his plays and in his films, he has returned over and over again to Wharton, Texas, where he was born and still lives. In his latest book, Farewell, a Memoir of a Texas Childhood, he tells his own story and the stories of the people who have inspired his memorable characters. I am pleased to have him here to talk about this book. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Why do you set all these stories in your hometown?
Well, I feel, and I think maybe Reynolds would agree with me about this, I don't know that you choose what you're going to do as much as it chooses you. And Lord knows I was advised and practically begged and ordered by my early agents not to do this, but I could not do it. And I would do it if nobody ever did one of them again. I mean, I don't know what that compulsion is.
To tell your own stories.
Yeah, and to do, well, because I think they choose you. I don't know that you can escape them if you're a certain kind of writer, the kind that I happen to like best.
Which is?
Well, people that do that.
That tell their story.
You feel that the material has really chosen them, and that their business to interpret it and to make it, to clarify it, and give it some kind of form.
Does writing get a whole lot easier? I mean, you're 81 now?
3.
3. Does it get a whole lot easier from decade to decade to decade?
You know, the decades have gone so fast.
They do, don't they?
I look around and I think, what am I saying? I'm 83. I'm 13.
Yeah. So you think of, your head says a young man, you think of it with a young man's head.
I suppose I don't know. I don't know that one chooses that either. I mean, you just think with what you have. And I've never had a problem writing. I mean, I feel very fortunate about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you edit a lot? Do you rewrite a lot?
My first impulses are very spontaneous. I do a lot of thinking before I do anything. And then I do a first draft rather quickly, and then I do a lot of editing and reworking and thinking. And really the hard work comes in.
Yeah, so, but was that the fun work then? Or what's the fun work?
I guess finding the idea or having the idea find you is, you know.
Well, this is sort of obvious, isn't it? I mean, why does this idea have to find you? I mean, here it is, the story of...
Well, you know, but if you don't, I mean, I kept no diaries, I kept no, and, you know, and really I was using my memory, in the literal sense. And it was an excursion, and sometimes a painful excursion.
What was painful?
Well, a lot of the things, and not always pleasant, you know, that you remember.
Like?
Well, there's a lot about my uncles in there that I love them very much, but they had very destructive lives. And I've tried to be honest about that, and that wasn't always easy. I couldn't probably have done it 20 years ago because they were alive, but, you know, that's a distance now, and things like that.
Where do they appear in your plays?
They appear as a combination of a man called Brother. He's in about 9 plays, but he's a combination of the 3. And I almost called this book Whatever Happened to the Brooks Boys, but it seemed that Farewell was a larger title and a more inclusive title.
Is Farewell a catharsis at all? A cleansing?
Not a catharsis, because in some ways it's a celebration.
Celebration.
Yeah, as much as a catharsis. I think there's a double-edged thing they're working there. But because I don't have unhappy memories, I have puzzling memories. And I spent my life trying to understand certain things that happened. I also, you know, I go into racial things and things like that that are common to the South. And, you know, experiences that one, well, you know, that one has growing up, which North or South sometimes seem to be the same.
Who influenced you the most among writers that you read?
Before I began writing?
Well, at any point.
Willa Cather, Mark Twain.
Yeah.
When I was a young fella, I mean, I was in my teens. Then as I came along, Reynolds has been a big influence.
Reynolds has influenced you?
Oh, yes. How could he not? You know, he's a giant.
What's his...
Catherine Ann Porter.
What is it that makes Reynolds Price a giant?
Well, he's awesome because, you know, he has this enormous range. I mean, he's a wonderful critic. He's a poet.
He writes essays.
He writes essays.
Writes short stories.
Short stories,
Writes
novels.
He writes memoirs.
Memoirs. And then he's just written this new volume, which is a letter written
Okay, but
to a
that's
friend.
the wide range that he paints on the canvas is large. But what is you think his greatest skill is character, or his greatest skill is dialogue, his greatest skill is description?
Strangely enough, I think he has a wonderful narrative skill.
Yeah.
Because I can get deeply involved in his novels and want to know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And some novels that isn't so. You can just like the style, or you can like the characterization. But with Reynolds, it isn't cheaply so, but in the deepest sense, it's a page turner.
Yeah. It's the storyteller's
You
art.
want to know, you know, who's going to happen to what, and sometimes you're in for great surprises, which that's why he's a wonderful novelist.
How about Larry McMurtry?
Don't know him that well,
Really? Personally, or by reading?
No, not too well. I mean, I admire what I do know of him. I've had great respect for, you know, Lonesome Dove.
Yeah.
And
anything that you haven't done that you very much want to do? Any goal that you know, what's unfulfilled in you?
It sounds fatuous to say this, but I really don't have anything. I just want to write another play.
Yeah.
And keep working, and maybe solve some of the problems of our theater so we can get back.
Well, like what?
Well, so they can be more accessible to people. Okay. I mean, in Hartford, for instance, it's a subsidized theater, and it's just remarkable. You know, the people come, they've been going there for 35 years, they're very sophisticated. You don't worry about, you're delighted if you do well at the box office, you don't worry. And it's, all those things that I'll never solve, but I'd like to try.
Can I tell you how many houses I've seen like this? Take a look at this. This is Farewell. This is the cover of Farewell, a memoir of a Texas childhood by Horton Foote. You will, as he suggested, meet a lot of the characters that have appeared in his plays, some mosaic of them or some amalgamation of them. He is the Pulitzer Prize-winning author of The Trip to Bountiful and also Tender Mercies. Thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.